Welcome to the first episode of Modeling Monday. And in this episode, I'm going to show you exactly what we'll be covering in the first week of modeling for our modeling students. So, how are we going to begin? The first thing we need to do is do correct project management. Without correct project management, it doesn't matter how good of an artist you are. If you can't find your files, all the good work that you have done is completely lost forever. So that absolutely is going to be drilled into my students, that if they are going to be presenting their work or if they are even doing it for themselves, the first thing they have to do is what? Do project management. Without correct project management, when you are finally done with this stuff and it is no longer in your Blender recent history, you're going to have a nightmare of a problem trying to figure out where it is. So, guys, today was day one, and it was really exciting because this is what determines whether a project is going to be successful or not, right? And so, how do we begin? We begin by creating a folder in which, obviously, within the steampunk, that is the kind of stuff that I've been getting into recently. So, telephone, and we're going to create a telephone for this one, as I said in the video and in the earlier. And here's our kind of a reference thing that we have built, and this is the roughly the same kind of thing that we'll be building. Now, when we are going to be doing this is going to allow us, this is for reference and all that kind of stuff. So we have created a separate reference folder which we will be converting into a pure ref. Might do that, might not do that. The other thing is going to be, as you can imagine, guys, the actual blend file. Now, what are we going to do with this blend file? What we have done is we have already created high poly, low poly collections, and also we have created within those collections we have created proportions collection, in which we are just going to make sure that this is the kind of proportion that we are going to be working with, which is going to be this telephone's height and width. Just trying to explain the theory, trying to explain project management, and especially within this thing, and from and then we'll take it from there, and then we're going to make it better as we go along. Now let's dive another step deeper into the project management aspect, which is going to be within the project management. How are you going to subdivide your project, which means understanding its proportions and which parts can be dissected. Now this is really important because this is the point where you can determine whether the asset is going to be moved forward for game development or film and TV. By the way, at 3D QuickBooks, we teach our modeling students how to prepare it for both. On day two of our modeling class, it may not look like much, but we covered quite a lot of few things, because we have to cover how to do the basic modeling, how to move along with edges, how to do all of these kind of things, and how to maintain obviously topology, and how what we can do in order to make sure that everything is right and correct. Obviously, students had a lot of questions, even students who were struggling with modeling previously. On day two, we not only covered this, talked about how to get started with this stuff, right? And so now we're going to start to find these kind of proportions in the first week, and then just gonna dial it down. We're going to make sure that everything is correct and everything is looking wonderful, and then we are going to push forward with the high poly stuff, low poly stuff in the coming weeks. It may not look like much, but trust me, it is more than enough. And obviously, coming to our modeling class, had to provide them with the references. Here is our reference, and that has been it. And now we'll move on to tomorrow. Today is day 3, and as you can see, guys, we're just making sure that everything is up to proportions, and we're really starting to see that it has come to life, especially the proportion size. We might play around a little bit here and there with these things, but essentially this is going to be the dial. So I'm going to turn that into a dial, and I'm going to obviously put it here. And since we're following a naming convention, this is how it's going to be. And obviously, this is going to be mic, and this is going to be the mic, and this is going to be the speaker. And so, as you can see, speaker underscore p and mic underscore p for proportion. And this is how far we have come. Remember, we only do 30 seconds of each, but topology is 100% there. It is going to be amazing how we are going to be able to do all of this stuff. And yeah, guys, I mean, it just really is fun, and just really looking forward to how everything is going to pan out. And that will be kind of it from our side for today. But we might increase the proportions, we might work on other things. We obviously definitely will try to make this come to life, and that will be kind of it. And and it's gonna be super fun, in my opinion, right? And yeah, that's it for day 3, and then we will move on to day 4. I'm going to take a concept from the sculpting, which is you cannot get into the minor details, the high frequency details right from the beginning, which means we have to first look at understanding the proportions and how it is subdivided so that we can dive straight into it and can make it come to life. Now, why is this important? This is important because if this were to be put into an animation, of this were put into a real life world scenario, the proportions cannot be improper. In the sense, if there is a 10 centimeter pole and you're putting an electrical pole all throughout your 3D scene, if in reality if it's a 10 centimeter, when it compared to the rest of the environment, it's going to look odd. That's just a very odd example, but it's a true one. And so the reason that I instill into my students that we need to correct this correct scales, even in an Unreal Engine plant factory, I make sure that they understand that this plant is this height and this much, this specific things, because it puts everything else into perspective. Welcome to day 4 of modeling. I am actually very keen on doing these videos for modeling because it's one of those things that you see such immediate results if you do everything right. I hope that made sense. So just trying to make them really instill in them how to use and when to use the subdivision surface modifier and how you can bring it to life if you want to, and the differences between making everything strategically so that it's ready for game, it's ready for movies and everything as well, and just making sure that everything is looking great and nothing is going to be out of touch and nothing is going to be that is going to turn into a nightmare eventually. So the goal of the whole first week is just to set up a proportions, and then the rest of the month we just want to really dial down. Literally, you can see the dial there, and literally dial down and try to make sure that everything is going to be correctly planned, and that we are able to do things that won't come or hinder us in the way when we're trying to go towards the high poly stuff or the low poly stuff as well. So we're going to spend a little bit time on this, but I think it is definitely worth spending 2 weeks on the upcoming 2 weeks, the second and the third week, with just the low poly, because the high poly stuff just comes, guys. It's not a massive deal. It is just, it needs to happen and it will happen. And if you got the low poly stuff down, high poly stuff comes really easy. But making them understand pivot points and how to make sure that they are understanding proportions and the thinking and the logic behind everything of the decisions that I'm making. When I made this, am I a little bit closer to the proportions and the references and all these kind of things? And I think they're enjoying the modeling class quite a lot. And yeah, and I will give you tomorrow's update. I think it's going to be massive. I think we're going to do a wonderful job with this as well. And yeah, by the way, guys, we're only setting 30 minutes a day, right? Monday to Friday, that too, nothing else, nothing more, right? So I think we're making massive amounts of progress, and then I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Hello. So welcome to day 5 of modeling, which is going to be the end of the week, which I think we did cover quite a lot of basics, and we, as you can see, we have started to match with the general outline of our this thing with only low poly stuff, and we are going to push this to the next level so that we are able to understand and make this come to life even more. And I think it's looking great for now. For just 5 days of work, I think we need to put a little bit more time, and we'll be able to get this to look exactly as we are meant to, as we are seeing in the reference. And I think it's going to be great. So I think we had a wonderful time just waiting for kids to catch up, and hopefully by next Monday, like in a couple of days, they will be able to do it, and we will be able to pursue this even further, and just focusing on the proportions and just trying to make this come to life. And thank you for following along till now, and I will see you next week with even more updates.